to see when he would be available, because we knew if he was in town, he would be there. To lend his support, to lend his guidance, and to offer us all of the experience he had on both the communal and general level. This, to us, is his most unique quality as a human being and as a Jew. On one hand, Max was a confidant and a regular friend of individuals such as Menachem Begin, Yitzhak Shamir, Benjamin Netanyahu. He was obviously, because of his status, frequented by presidential candidates, governors, congressmen, mayors, university presidents. On the other hand, he found no qualms at the same time sitting down with a board, with young rabbis, with a fledgling institution, with individuals, although it's difficult to say, were considered a pariah in the general Jewish community. And notwithstanding the fact that all of those who he was involved with refused and distanced themselves from the yeshiva. He refused to follow their lead and instead became a true leader within the yeshiva. Why was this so? Because Max was an individual who responded in a very unique way. If there was a legitimate Jewish need that was presented to him, regardless of its scope, regardless of the prestige that it could lend to himself, he responded immediately, generously, with his time and his support. There was one particular incident which I remember, which I think epitomized Max's feelings towards helping other Jews. It was at the end of one of our meetings. The third floor of his office had a bank of windows similar to this very impressive room. And as he was leading us out from the meeting, he went to the window. And his hand traversed the whole landscape of downtown Milwaukee. And he said, "You can't understand." And he started to name off Jew after Jew after Jew who lived or worked in downtown Milwaukee. He said, "You can't understand why they aren't participating in the yeshiva and in other worthy causes." Max was a man who was very calm, cool, and collected. Very rarely, I think, let his hair down, but at this particular time, he saw the annoyance in his neshama. And his response was, how is it that there are Jews out there who have the wherewithal to help, and they're not helping? He couldn't understand it. This was Max Carl. He could not understand a Jew who could help another Jew and was not actively involved in that assistance. Baruch Hashem, over the years, the yeshiva has been blessed with many friends. There are those who respond to us, and there are those who reach out to us and help. No greater friend does the yeshiva have than Armin Nankin. Now is not the time or the place to acknowledge all of Armin's help. It takes quite a bit of time to do so. But Armin knows the special feelings that the yeshiva has for himself and his entire family. And I know that he knows how much we appreciate all of the help that he has given to us in terms of his time and his commitments to make sure that the yeshiva functions at the highest level it can. My pleasure at this time to call upon Armin, who was a very, very good friend of Max, to lend some words. Armin.
congratulations to the graduates, 95 graduates of Wisconsin Institute of Torah Studies. Welcome to the families, the friends, on the yeshiva. We're so pleased to see you. The president or the chairman of the Board of Governors, Elliot Katz, unfortunately is out of town today. Otherwise, he would be talking to you right now. But he sends his best regards and his best wishes to the graduates, and he wishes that the graduates will have nachas, good health, and will go from strength to strength in the future. Rabbi Cheplowitz was very eloquent in his remarks. I was mesmerized, as a matter of fact, by the way he taught Max Carl. But you can't say enough about Max, and this is really the first public tribute to this very fine gentleman. And he asked me to say a few words about Max in addition. The community recognition will be held on June 25th at the Max Carl campus in Milwaukee. It'll be held at 3 o'clock, and I know that there are a lot of people that are out of town, but those people who will be in town, we're out of town here, but those people that will be in the city would be well served to attend that tribute, because no finer person walked this earth, I can tell you that. A little background on Max, if I can. I first met Max shortly after I graduated from college. I was an employee of the Internal Revenue Service, and I was an Internal Revenue agent. And one of the very first returns that I audited was Max. And what was remarkable about it is that I had heard his name in the past. I knew of him. He was a remarkable, successful attorney, but had not really achieved any recognition at that point in his life. And he was active in the Federation. He was perhaps 42, 43 years of age. He wasn't a young man, but then again, he wasn't like the huge stature that he was to develop. And I was, the first thing that I remembered was that his affairs were in impeccable condition. And we shook hands, and he left, and I was really impressed by the gentleman, the dignity in which he treated me. I was a little guy, I was 22, 23 years old at the time. And I followed his career thereafter, and shortly thereafter, along with a team of other people, he developed, he was a lawyer, but he had the concept that housing was very important in the post-World War II days. And he, along with a few other people, but his inspiration, his creativity, his energy, they formed a company which would insure mortgages for people that were buying homes that had very, very small down payments. And they couldn't afford to come up with the $20,000 or $30,000 in order to buy a home at that time. They had only maybe $5,000 or $7,000. And there was an agency with the United States government called the FHA, Federal Housing Authority. That agency, as every government agency was and will be, acted in a snail's pace. And there are people lined up, and they're trying to get mortgages, and they're trying to buy homes, and there's no way of doing it. Max said, why don't we take the company and we'll do it ourselves? We'll provide the guarantees that the federal government was providing. We'll get the capital, and people can buy homes. Well, nobody believed it was possible. That was the days before private enterprise could compete with government. People said it couldn't be done. And Max found a way of doing it. And I'm oversimplifying it a great deal. But he got the investors, people, his friends, his family, people he dragged off the street. He said, look, let's band our money together, and we'll see what we can do to help others. And this company became the Mortgage Guarantee Insurance Company. And it grew, and it grew, and it grew. And the little people that he brought along, his cousins and his friends, became very, very, very wealthy. And if they become wealthy, you can just imagine what Max had. But Max never let that get to them. He never considered himself a hero. And I think I caught that very well in the tribute that was written in our book that was presented today. That never went to his head. Money never became an object that he revolved around. He was really a shepherd of that, and it was only the use of that money for a greater purpose that he attended to. And he became close to many people, and the rabbi spoke well of the friends that he had made over the years. He received honorary degrees from many universities. He contributed immensely to the Jewish community, the Milwaukee Jewish community. I talked about the Carl campus, on which is located the Jewish Community Center, and the Hillel Elementary School, and the Milwaukee Jewish Day School. I was talking to Joey Abramczyk earlier today, and he said, look at what's happened in the last 10 years in Milwaukee, all these organizations that have developed, the synagogues that have grown. Where did it come from? I said, Joey, a lot of it came from Max. Max had the energy, the foresight, and powers he put together. And I wasn't him alone. There were a lot of other people. Max was in the forefront of that. He was the president of many organizations. He was the president of the Milwaukee Jewish Federation. He was the chairman of the Wisconsin Individual Bonds. He served on presidential task forces, and he had a huge status. The very presence, his very presence would take a meeting that was unfocused, was unglued, and put it together again. The rabbi talked earlier about he would take an ordinary event and make it special by his mere presence. A meeting with ordinary people about ordinary issues, and his presence could become strong. And we rise to bigger and greater levels. But he was always interested in helping the young people like myself. As I was growing up through the organizational level, he always had time for me. Never a moment. If I was to call him on the telephone, even when he retired from active life, from active communal affairs, there was a telephone call, you had a question, you could call Max. And he would always come to your assistance. He always had advice, he was humble, never abrasive, and always accessible. When I think of Max, I don't think of him as being a pillar, he was a tower. He was a beacon, because wherever he was, you could see him in the distance, and he focused us, and he drew our attention to us. So what's the lesson to be learned? Well, I am certain that of the 16 young men that are sitting here right now, that one of them is a Max Carl. I am confident of that, because of their education and their family backgrounds, and what's been laid before them, and what I've seen walking through the yeshiva, one of them is a Max Carl. And the lesson to be learned there, the small lesson may be, but the largest lesson to learn there, is no matter how big you get, and no matter how successful you are, don't forget the ordinary people. The little guy down below, the little guy that will need your help, the little guy that will take your advice as if it may be an insignificant piece to you, but a pearl of wisdom to them. And they will grow because of what you have done. So that is what I think of when I think of Max Carl. He was a gentleman, he was a fine person, and I think if he was sitting here before us, I'd see that impish grin out there laughing and smiling. And he'd say, if nothing else, file your income tax return on time and do it right. Wonderful talking, everybody.
Good afternoon. My name is Arya Giver from Chicago, North Carolina. On behalf of the graduating class, I'd like to welcome you all and thank you for joining us today. To graduate, as defined by Webster's Dictionary, is to receive a degree or diploma upon completing a course of study. A nice definition, but the author has obviously not spent any amount of time at the Wisconsin Institute for Torah Study. To the seniors at WITS, our graduation means so much more. Over the past several years, WITS has been more than just our school. It has been our home away from home. Our learning has been more than just our coursework. Rather, it has given us a guideline by which we hope to lead our lives. And the staff at WITS has been more than just our teachers. They have mixed that role with the role of being a friend, available for support as well as for study. Our graduation today is only a small part of a much bigger picture. The growth and experience that each of us have gone through over the last 4 years. The 16 graduates that make up the WITS class of 1995 represent 11 cities. Each of us arriving here from different backgrounds and with different expectations. Much has changed over 4 years, and much has been accomplished. Our program today is geared towards giving you a glimpse of the process that has Be'ezras Hashem prepared us to stand where we do today, graduating from high school and moving on to base vendors. The graduates have agreed to write down and share with you some reflections of our years at WITS. I'd like to open by introducing Finflis Goldfinger of Baltimore, Maryland.
Thank you. In Bereshis, when Hashem created man, he said, Nasa Adam, let us make man. Why did Hashem speak in the plural? Didn't Hashem create man without aid or assistance? In his writings, Rabbi Avram Twersky explains that Hashem was talking to man himself, that man is Hashem's partner in his own creation. Hashem began the creation of man, giving him the physical form and the capabilities he needs to complete the creation. Through Torah and Musar, man can attain the self-perfection needed to complete his creation. I came to it because I wanted to attain this self-perfection. My parents had instilled in me the desire to perform Hashem's will, and to mold my personality into one that befits a Torah Jew. I desired a yeshiva that would provide the rebbeim and environment needed to attain this goal. In WITS, I found that the dedication of the rebbeim and the Musar they teach helps each and every Talmud perfect his midos and grow in Musar. The rebbeim provide instruction and methods of introspection, showing us how, through Musar, we can determine why we do things, and how to correct our actions when they're less than perfect. The rebbeim also make themselves available for any Talmud who needs to speak with them, and they do their best to instill the fear of Hashem in all those around them. In addition to this, the older Talmidim do their part in helping the younger Talmidim grow in their religious observance. They provide support and guidance, and draw on their own experiences to help those less experienced than them. I have seen the level of shleimus, self-completion, that former high school students have attained at WITS, and I hope that I too will be able to attain their degree of shleimus and of spiritual perfection. I'd like to thank my parents, rebbeim, and friends for all the help they have given me over the years, and I am confident that with their aid, I will attain my goal. It gives me great pleasure to introduce, from Tucson, Arizona, my good friend, Mendel Becker. Thank you. Most of us came to WITS from different cities throughout the world. Some came from larger communities, and some from small. I grew up and have lived in Tucson, Arizona almost my whole life. There are no religious day schools in Tucson, and a very small Shomer Shabbos population. People often wonder how I got a proper Jewish education there, and why I don't feel deprived. On the contrary, there are many reasons why I feel privileged to have grown up in Tucson. Firstly and foremost, until high school, my parents were my sole teachers of Torah. My parents, who moved to Tucson to start an Orthodox synagogue, have also taught me by example what it means to be Moser Nefesh, to sacrifice for others in the service of Hashem. They also allowed my siblings and I to feel a part of their outreach to the Jews of Tucson. As I neared my bar mitzvah, however, I began to look forward to going to yeshiva. My parents knew that in order for me to continue growing to the best of my ability, I would need to be in a Torah environment, in the yeshiva setting. I came to WITS, and I found myself in a Torah environment. WITS provided me with the surroundings I needed in order to continue my growth. I found the Rebbeim's concern and devotion to each individual to be extraordinary. I will always have a heart of Torah, real gratitude for this devotion. While at WITS, the Rebbeim instilled within me an appreciation for Torah and the importance of Muslims. I have learned how crucial it is to act properly with your fellow man. I have a great debt of gratitude to everyone that has led me through life the past 17 years. I would especially like to thank my parents for being there whenever I needed them, and for all they have done in raising and educating me. I have a tremendous amount of appreciation for what I have accomplished throughout my life in Torah and in all areas of Avodas Hashem. What I have learned from my years in Tucson through high school and WITS will in years Hashem, God willing, always stay with me. Now I would like to introduce my friend and roommate, Doug Sukan, of Cleveland, Ohio.
Please remember, each of us graduating here today deserves a certain amount of credit for what we've accomplished over our years of WITS. With hard work and dedication, we have grown academically and spiritually. We have taken major steps on our way to becoming the Torah. However, a majority of the credit goes to our parents, who brought us up so we could become who we are today. In our formative years, it was our parents who guided, counseled, encouraged, and supported us. My parents are perfect examples of people who are totally committed to their children's education. Throughout my grade school and high school career, they have always been heavily involved in day-to-day matters in the school. When the decision came to move the family to Arts Israel, satisfactory schooling for my brothers was of utmost importance. They always stressed to me that when it came to providing education to their children, no expense or effort was to be spared in order to ensure that the children reach their full potential in life. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank my parents for the love and support they have shown me. May Hashem bless them and leave us young as much as Now I'd like to introduce a very good friend of mine, Rami Watson from the law.
Thank you. From my earliest memories, WITS has been a part of me. I moved to Milwaukee with my family 15 years ago, and as my life was beginning, so was the yeshiva's. Many thought that the yeshiva's beginning was an inauspicious one, starting with only 14 young men in a rented floor of a former public school building. But through the untiring work of the few dedicated rabbanim, the yeshiva has achieved the stature which it has today. As I stand here now, it is hard to even recall those days. The number of students has literally increased tenfold, and our building is presently inadequate. While most people only see the finished product in the form of a top-notch yeshiva, I was privileged to see all the underlying work that went into the making of WITS. Growing up around WITS, I saw the devotion of the Rebbein 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And on a more personal level, I've seen the tremendous efforts put forth by my father and mother in the creation and development of WITS. Since coming to the high school 4 years ago, I've been able to experience firsthand the Rebbeim's commitment to each and every Talmud. After seeing this, I realized how privileged I am to have been here. I take much pride in WITS and in my graduation. I'd like to take this time to thank my parents and Rebbeim for giving me this opportunity to grow up in such an environment. And now I'd like to introduce the one person who can relate to all this, my friend and classmate, Baruch Harris from Jerusalem, Israel.
Coming to WITS is a very different experience for me than for most of my classmates. I too spent a significant portion of my childhood, from age 3 to 11, watching the yeshiva grow and change. My parents moved to Milwaukee for the sole purpose of Havatzas Torah, starting the yeshiva from the Milwaukee community, and helped build WITS from scratch. After 8 years of devotion to WITS, the yeshiva was already established, and my parents decided to move to Eretz Israel and continue in Chinuch there. I spent a lot of time in the yeshiva, and I was friendly with a lot of the students, even though some of them were 3 times my age. The student population grew constantly. I grew with the yeshiva, and WITS was undergoing the same slow and steady growth process as I was. I wasn't really aware of the yeshiva's growth because it grew in small increments gradually. When I left in 1988, there were 5 graduates and a total of just over 50 students. I didn't know then I would ever return to Milwaukee. In 1992, I came to WITS for 10th grade. It was strange because I was familiar with the surroundings and most of the administration, but almost all of the students were strangers. In the 4 years of my absence, the yeshiva had continued growing, but the magnitude of the yeshiva's growth was only now evident to me. There were now 100 students, twice as many as there had been when I left. The whole atmosphere was much more bustling and lively. When I left, the coach house, guest wing, and 3rd floor were all unpopulated by students. Now the yeshiva had to renovate the coach house to accommodate all the students. The Avostor of Nassim tells the story about Rabbi Akiva. At age 40, with no Torah background, Rabbi Akiva came upon a stone well and inquired upon its origin. He was informed that dripping water corroded the stone and formed the well. He was so impressed by this phenomenon that he immediately deduced that if water can penetrate stone, then obviously Torah, which is as hard as iron, can penetrate his mind, which is flesh and blood. He was inspired and immediately sat down to learn, and eventually became the Rabbi Akiva that we know, the greatest Torah scholar of this generation. You see that when things grow in small increments, the growth is not always immediately apparent. But given time, when you look at the current state, and then compare it to what it was originally, you can see the change. There's a lesson to be applied to life. People tend to get discouraged when they fail to see progress in their endeavors. But they have to keep on trying, because the only way they will reach success is with time and effort. I can imagine the feelings that my father and the other band must have had at times, but they just pursued their goal with utter persistence. And eventually WITS became what it is today. When I began high school, graduating seemed so far away. And now that I'm actually here, I look back and the year seemed like a flash. Passed right before my eyes. Now it's over. I'd like to thank my parents, relatives, Ravane, teachers, and friends who have supported me through the years and helped me reach this milestone. Now I'd like to introduce my good friend and roommate, Alicia Feinberg from Muncie, New York.
When I first contemplated coming to the yeshiva at the end of 10th grade, I heard much about WITS and its educational standards. Frankly, I wondered what was so different about joining the WITS that made it one of the first things to be mentioned when discussing yeshiva. After all, in other yeshivas as well, students receive a strong basic background for future learning, while at the same time studying the college preparatory general studies program. Well, I think I can now say that this is obviously, but I don't think that that's the distinguishing factor. I think what distinguishes us is that we have learned to appreciate education and observe its merits firsthand in our abandoned teachers. I think their abandoned consciously try to impart a desire to learn to their students. This desire to learn distinguishes all WITS graduates. And most importantly, I feel my outlook and the outlook and views of my classmates have received strong molding in terms of Torah outlook on life. This obviously doesn't happen on its own. It's accomplished through a concerted effort by their band who aren't afraid to tackle and discuss important issues. Thus, each student leaves with the knowledge of what the Torah says on any number of topics. I think that this knowledge is what most distinguishes each and every WITS graduate. Now that I'm graduating, I'd like to thank the yeshiva for helping my outlook get out of the Torah. And I'd like to thank my mother and father, Elshon, for the education and hashkaf I've never forgiven me. And now I'd like to introduce my friend and classmate, Zev Gold, from Overland Park. Thank you. The yeshiva has taught us that it is not adequate to just labor in Torah study and shirk our responsibility of performing acts of chesed. The lifestyle without good deeds is illustrated in Turkey with Perek Gimel, Mishnah Yitzayin, to be the Elon Shanafa B'Rubin Sharasha G'Wativ, Ruach Ba V'Kartov V'Tachor Ha'Pomer. Similar to a tree with leaves but lacking roots. When a wind comes, the tree is uprooted and it collapses. Meaning, if Torah learning is not accompanied by acts of chesed, then a person is deficient in his avodas Hashem, in his religious obligation. When someone performs acts of chesed, he gains a clear understanding of Hashem's commandments and of our purpose in this world. If this is not accomplished, then the Torah learned will not be established and will eventually depart from the person. Within WITS, you will find the Mishnah's lesson being personified. After a full day of intensive learning both in the Judaic and general studies, a student may feel himself overburdened, and he may require assistance. In such cases, you will discover other students donating their time to aid him. Creating workable dormitory relationships is a tedious and painstaking task, in which case each dormitory member must be sensitive to other individual needs. Whether it means obtaining food for an ill roommate or to gladden a fellow student who is sad. The selfless acts of chesed are commonplace at WITS and are the ingredients that create a Muslim yeshiva. Recently, there was a blood drive which a certain member of the school directed. 3,000 envelopes were to be stuffed, sealed, addressed, and postmarked within a matter of 2 days. It was completed because countless, if not all, the students gave of their free time to complete the project. These are just a few examples of the acts of kindness performed in the yeshiva on an ongoing basis. For years, my class has been raised in such an atmosphere. An atmosphere where performance of mitzvahs through a Muslim perspective is sought and demanded. In an environment where the emphasis is on developing the roots of the acts of chesed and the leaves of Torah learning. I would like to express my gratitude to Hashem for placing me in a home where my parents instilled within me a love for Judaism and for the Jewish people. In a home where I not only learned through verbal lessons, but also from the meritorious acts of chesed my parents were constantly engaged in. I would like to introduce now a close friend who comes from my hometown, Overland Park, Kansas, and whom I've had the honor of knowing for 6 years. He has been a constant source of strength and inspiration for me. Without further ado, Todd Cohn.
In a couple of hours, I will be back in my dorm room, packing up not only my personal belongings, but more importantly, the knowledge, experiences, and friendships acquired over the past 4 years. These friendships, whose potential I was initially unaware of, would be the keystone to my successful learning and living at WITS. The adjustment to yeshiva life created a necessity for additional support. This necessity is exactly what enabled me to learn what friendship is and how valuable it can be. The friendships I've developed have provided me with the capability to grow and have therefore been the essential element in my overall achievements. They've taught me the importance of trust and dependability. My friends have shared with me my happiness and have supported me in my sadness. As this same year became more and more evident as to how dear my friends and how memorable the times, both good and difficult, are to me. I always knew that I'd look back on my tears and laugh. I just never knew that I would look back on my laughter and cry. Today, as I look back in retrospect at what I've experienced and accomplished over the past 4 years, I'm doing so with a smile on my face and tears in my eyes. Mom, Dad, although it was only a few years ago that we were saying goodbye for the first time on the front steps of the yeshiva, the distance traveled since then is immeasurable. You've been there for me every step of the way, providing me with your warm love and support. Any gratitude I would be able to express would not even compare to the gratitude that I feel. And any gratitude I feel is nowhere near the gratitude that you deserve. In the most simplest definition of my emotions, I love you. I would now like to introduce someone I've had the great and distinct pleasure of getting to know over the past 2 years as his roommate, David Greenwald from Toronto, Ontario.
Thank you. The makeup of a yeshiva keeps students in constant contact with one another, often presenting an interesting dilemma. On the one hand, there are unlimited opportunities for friendships, chesed, acts of kindness, and actos, togetherness. On the other hand, however, there is the temptation to focus only on one's own needs. The schedule can be tiring and the work is demanding. Under such circumstances, how can a student find time to be involved with his classmates? My years at WITS have taught me that there is always time for a friend. How did I come to that understanding? Because an integral part of my development as a student and mentora has been the relationships that I've cultivated with my fellow students. The kinship and the support of my friends and my roommates have been a constant source of strength for me. Therefore, I have come to realize that any time spent helping others or lifting the spirits of a friend is a worthy investment. Friends who are willing to give their time and energy for one another form groups that are fused with closeness and togetherness. The roles my friends have played in my 3 years at WITS have been invaluable. And it is for this reason that I now find myself eager for opportunities to give generously of my time and energy on behalf of others. I would like to give a special thanks to my parents and family for joining me today and for their support throughout my years at WITS. Now I would like to introduce a dear friend of mine, Moshe Katz from Chicago, Illinois.
When I look back at everything I've learned in WITS in 4 years, I think perhaps one of the most important lessons is the importance of chesed, performing acts of kindness for others. While obviously such a mitzvah is taken for granted by everyone as important, it's not one that would usually come to mind first as a lesson learned in yeshiva. Throughout our years here, the Rebbeim have been most conscientious in instilling within us a desire to do chesed. They've always been interested in any happenings in yeshiva, and have always been careful to encourage chesed at every opportunity. For example, On a weekly basis, as many as 25 students from the yeshiva visit with the residents of Milwaukee Jewish Home, thereby taking the lessons learned in the classroom and putting them into practice. So, as I look back, I take with me the understanding of Chesed, and I hope that this will last throughout my life, wherever I go and whatever I do. I would like to thank my parents for their love, guidance, and support, which has helped me get to where I am today. I would now like to take this opportunity to introduce to you my good friend, Ari Krupp from Memphis, Tennessee.
Thank you. During my 40 years at WITS, I have received the most unique education. Upon arriving as a freshman, I expected to develop in many areas, including my Torah learning, davening, and performance of the mitzvahs correctly. With the help of my Rebbeim, thankfully, I have made huge growth in these areas. I have acquired the skills and capability to study Torah at levels which I had only dreamed of 4 years ago. The idea of sitting down with a Gemara to learn for extended periods of time, and even more so by myself, were foreign concepts to me before I came to WITS. Now, I find myself enjoying many hours of learning a day, and I feel a great sense of accomplishment each time I understand a new piece of Gemara. This would have been impossible without the endless help, support, and guidance my Rebbeim have given me. Davening and basic mitzvahs observance have taken on a new meaning, now that I have a greater understanding of them. Though extremely important, the growth I've made in these areas is only a fraction of what I've learned while in WITS. I have also learned that being a Ben Torah is much more. It also entails perfecting one's personal character traits. Often, the development of one's character traits is not given the proper emphasis and is occasionally overlooked. In truth, it is the key to our success as true God-fearing Jews. We see its importance in the Ordo Tzaddikim, which insists that the acquisition of Torah without proper character traits is impossible. As the Ordo Tzaddikim tells us, if one does not possess good midos, he does not possess Torah and mitzvahs, for all Torah depends on the development of one's character. While in yeshiva, the importance of perfecting our character traits was stressed greatly. I now appreciate the vital role they play in my development as a Ben Torah, and understand the need for their presence in everything I do. Hopefully, I can take this knowledge and grow in Torah and learning to my fullest potential. I would like to thank my parents for 18 years of boundless love, advice, support, and encouragement. I will always be indebted to you and hope to continue to make you proud of me. May Hashem bless you with continued offers. I love you. I would like to take this opportunity to introduce to you my close friend, Amir Abramchik from Chicago, Illinois.
Thank you. There are a lot of concerns when somebody leaves home to go to yeshiva. One of them is trying to adjust to a new setting. When you leave home, you gain many more responsibilities. Your parents are not there to help you with everything from your homework, just being there for you when you need them. The one advantage that I have is that I live in Chicago. So I'm far enough away from home to take advantage of new responsibilities, but close enough for my parents to be personally involved in my education. Another concern is that the students are entering totally new surroundings. They don't have their French, which they have known for the past 13 years. They have to meet new people who are going to be their classmates, roommates, and friends for the next 4 years. Our adjustment to yeshiva has been smooth. In WITS, the Rebbeim know our concerns and problems, and they're always offering their help. They know when a young man enters the yeshiva that they have many different adjustments to make, and the Rebbeim tried very hard to make the adjustment period as easy as possible. Another reason why adjusting was easy is that Beis Medrash students are very helpful to the new students. It is very easy to talk to them about your problems, because they've had the same problems when they were in high school. One of the main reasons why adjusting away from home was so much easier was because of the Musar learning that we are all involved in with WITS. With the Musar, we learn to be tolerant of other individuals, we learn to give and take with our roommates. It also helps us to be more responsible on how to balance our schedule and makes us more appreciative of everything that the yeshiva has done for us. I'd like to thank my parents for everything that they've done for me. Now I'd like to introduce Eddie Glazer from Baltimore, Maryland.
Thank you. After living at home for many years, rarely being away, I thought that dormitory life at WITS would be very difficult. But I was wrong. WITS was different. I made friends quickly and almost immediately felt at home. I felt at home because of extra sensitivity taught at WITS. This seems to follow along the lines of sensitivity Torah taught in the Vary. Loser Shara Chicha Oni Dachim, Salam Tamehem, Hashem Teshiven Lachicha. You should not see the ox of your brother or his lamb lost and hide from them. Surely you shall return them to your brother. The Torah, after dealing with issues of war, commands us to return a lost ox or lamb upon sighting them, and not to ignore them. Ibn Ezra points out that the Torah expects us to be so sensitive to the needs of our friends, we must exert ourselves, even in the dangerous throes of war, to return the lamb of our friend. So, how much more so must we be sensitive when there are no outside threats distracting us? Living in a dormitory can present many occasions when we need to be sensitive to our friends' needs. In WITS, I have learned to be sensitive to my friends' needs. There are many trying times in many people's lives when they need help or advice. I feel I must help them. Interacting with others in the dorm causes you to learn to put the needs of others before your own needs. These challenges are all real, but WITS has helped us be sensitive to our friends. Dorm life is hard and has many challenges. The WITS dorm has helped me become a more independent person and showed me how to deal with difficult situations. I came to WITS concerned whether I'd fit in, but to my surprise I fit in well. The WITS dorm is a place where you will find people sensitive to your needs who really go out of their way for your best interests. I would like to thank my parents for all that they have done for me. It is now my pleasure to introduce to you Yaakov from Atlanta, Georgia.
Thank you. Over the past 4 years at WITS, the learning of Musar has been stressed at every juncture. This learning has instilled within me many values. One of these values is the concept of being Shol Eitzah, asking advice from others. This could be from parents, Rabbanim, or friends. The Rabbanim have taught me that very little is black and white in this world. Most is in the gray. Every step of life carries with it decisions to be made. All of these decisions must be taken seriously and cannot be thought out alone. My Rabbanim are constantly stressing the fact that people need help with making important decisions. Yet, at the same time, the decision needs to be a personal one, made by the individual himself. Being Shol Eitzah has made a big difference on a personal level. In the painstaking process of deciding what the future will bring, the Rabbanim of WITS were right there to help me. After much thought and thought, I concluded that it would be most beneficial to my learning if I stayed for my first year of base medrash at WITS. If I had not turned to my Rabbanim for advice, I am not sure I would have made the right decision. I hope that next year and in the many years to come, I will continue to learn many things from not only what my Rabbanim teach me, but also by watching what they do and how they lead their lives. I will be forever indebted to my parents, Rabbanim, and friends for helping me out and advising me during all of my 4 years at WITS. It is my great pleasure to now introduce to you Ben Farrow from Chicago, Illinois.
Thank you. As we arrive at this point in our lives, we all must make an important decision that will affect us for the rest of our lives. We must decide what we'll be doing in the years to come, 1 year at a time. While many will be staying on next year to learn in the WITS-based mentorship program, others will be attending yeshivas in Eretz Yisrael. I am one of those who will be attending yeshiva in Eretz Yisrael, specifically Yeshiva Tzfat. There is a medrash rabba that states, Ein Torah k'Torah Eretz Yisrael. There is no Torah like the Torah of Eretz Yisrael. The land itself creates an environment in which learning takes on a new dimension. This will, God will, be aided by learning. In addition, there are several other reasons why I feel that learning Eretz Yisrael will be better. I feel for myself, Eretz Yisrael is a place which is most conducive to my progress in learning. By going away for a year, I will be able to be behind many of the distractions that would otherwise inhibit my learning. Next year, I hope to visit the Kosel, Kibbutz Tzedekah, and other holy places which can only be conquered. Being constantly surrounded by such kedusha, I hope I will hopefully grow spiritually even during the moments where I'm not learning. In the time that I don't spend there, I hope to utilize the education and tools of learning that I acquired from WITS to further my education. I would like to thank my Rabbanim, friends, and especially my parents, for it is only with their constant support and encouragement that I've been able to reach this point in my life. I would now like to reintroduce our master of ceremonies, R.D. Thank you, Ben, and thank you for the time and attention that you have given our program. The topics which we highlighted all served as stepping stones on our way to today's graduation. Hopefully, we have convinced you of our premise that this graduation is not just a completion of high school, but in fact, can mean so much more. Those of you that have joined us today are divided into three distinct groups: our families and friends, the faculty of the yeshiva, and members of the Milwaukee's Jewish community. While it's impossible to properly express our appreciation for these people, at least throughout our program, we've made an attempt to thank the first two groups. On behalf of the yeshiva and class, at this time, I'd like to sincerely thank members of the Milwaukee's Jewish community for their efforts on our behalf. While we may not all know you personally, we have all benefited from your warmth and support on a continuous basis. Thank you. If I can at this time, I'd like to take a moment to thank my parents and family for their love and support over the years, without which I could never have come as far as I feel I have. We ask you to join us at the formal graduation ceremony taking place in the Tech Hall. Thank you.
I'm not focusing. There might be well, it's coming in now, but there's a star.
I'd like to welcome everyone to the official graduation exercises. Chazal tell us that it is crucial for every person to have an appropriate self-image. Particularly in yeshivas, Labat and Musar, we learn that it is crucial to acknowledge the fact that we all created in Tzelem Elokim. Untold potential, the ability to rise to the highest levels. This concept of self-image is very important to each student in the yeshiva. A person who has the proper goals and expectations, who has the appropriate belief in the magnificency of the human being, his ability and potential, can raise to unusual heights in Avodas Hashem, to be the greatest Lamdin, to be a Yerei Shemayim, to be a Baal Chesed, to be able to be selfless in responding to the needs of everyone. There was a time, a couple of years ago, the life of our salutatorian, when there was a calculation that perhaps, due to very legitimate reasons, he should not come back to the yeshiva and should instead stay at home and be educated at a local institution. It's a very weighty decision. However, the young man was filled from a very young age with an unusual clarity and feeling that he wanted to be a Talmud Chacham, that he wanted to be a Ben Torah. And realizing that, and driven by that singular focus on the ability of every person, particularly himself, to rise to that occasion to be a Lamdin, he realized that he could not do it where he was, and under unusual circumstances, drove himself to make the decision that he must come back to the yeshiva. Baruch Hashem, his parents were very supportive of that very, very difficult decision. And the fruits of that decision are with us this afternoon. Baruch Hashem, over the years, Ari has risen to obviously very great heights in his academic achievement. He is in a Beis Medrash here. He has done well in his general studies. And as such, he deserves great accolades for the Mesiras Nefesh and the ability to stay on that course to be a Talmud Chacham. I want to at this time acknowledge the very, very strong support of his parents. Wish a special mazel tov to Mr. and Mrs. Krupp, and at this time call upon Ari Krupp to accept the award of salutatorian. We know that the Gemara tells us that there's a very simple yet difficult formula for success in learning. And that is Yagato Matzasa Tami. If a person works diligently, then we can be rest assured that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will bless that person with success in his learning. Our co-valedictorian is an individual who models that expression of Chazal, Yagata Umasasa. Individual of unusual, solid work habits. Individual who's rarely fazed by any type of demand made on him within the realm of academics, whether it's learning, whether it's in sheer, whether it's in general studies. A person that regardless of how difficult something may be, he knows that if he works, he doesn't necessarily have to understand it now at the moment, but the hatzlacha in learning is not necessarily understanding everything at the moment. But it is the fruits of the yigiyah, of the amelus, of the dedication to a work ethic which says that I know if I will continue to work hard, I will succeed at all learning. Our co-valedictorian is a model of that concept. Very rarely have we seen such a steady, hard worker, dedicated in unusual ways to his learning and to all of his studies. My pleasure at this time to call upon our valedictorian. At the same time, wish a very hearty mazel tov to Dr. and Mrs. Glazer of Baltimore, and call upon their son Ed Glazer to accept the award and deliver the valedictorian address.
During my years in high school, I learned a considerable amount of Torah, and a considerable amount about how to learn Torah. I learned we must toil and work to succeed in learning Torah. But in addition, we must have avos Torah, a love and a joy in learning Torah. We know that the only way to obtain true avos Torah is by not only being concerned about our own Torah, but also for the Torah of your children and your children's children down the road. We see this from a pasuk in the Devar. Lo nasan Hashem lachem leiv l'das v'einayim l'ros v'aznayim l'shmoa ad hayom hazeh. For God did not give them the heart to know, the eyes to see, and the ears to hear until this day. Rashi has a question on this pasuk. What happened on that day that was so special that the Bnei Yisrael merited that Hashem finally gave them these things? Rashi answers that on that day, Moshe wanted to give the Torah over to the Levim for safekeeping. When he was about to do this, Bnei Yisrael protested. They were afraid that in the future the Levim would say the Torah is given just to them and not to the entire nation. From this protest, Moshe knew that Bnei Yisrael loved and desired the Torah. But how do we see that Hashem gave them these special levels of understanding? The Rosh Yeshiva, Agona Penach Leibel Shlita, answered that since they showed concern for future generations, and not just themselves, by doing this, they showed they had true avos Torah, and with that, they were worthy of these special levels of understanding. We see many people who study Torah every available minute. These people make learning their lives. They seem to truly love the Torah. We see in the Sefer HaChinuch that one reason we count Omer is to make receiving the Torah more dear to us. This is compared to a slave counting down to his liberation. As each day brings him closer to his freedom, he becomes more excited. The same is true with the Torah. As each day gets closer to the end, we have a stronger desire to receive and learn from the Torah. Thus we see how loving Torah helps us with our learning. But it is important to note that truly loving the Torah depends on what you want. Do you want to learn for yourself, or do you want to learn for you and future generations? This brings us to an important concept in Jewish life, transmitting Torah and customs from generation to generation. This is called Masorah. In early generations, Masorah was taught to his son. A father taught everything he knew to his son. We must make sure our Torah will be available to help later generations. This concern will help us to gain true avos, true love of Torah, wanting Torah for both us and our children. From my early childhood, I gained from this appreciation of what Masorah means. My parents instilled in me the midos which their parents instilled in them. They strived to educate me as much as they could at a young age. Then when it came time, they sent me out to day school, where I would learn, be taught from Rebbeim, who learned from their Rebbeim, continuing to spread the Torah which they loved. Finally, when I reached high school age, my parents made the sacrifice and allowed me to go to a dormitory yeshiva. They sent me to WITS because they wanted me to be where I would learn best. At WITS, I saw and learned about Masorah. The Rebbeim here all learned from Rebbeim, from there are late. This Masorah includes learning style, the Musar, the Hashkafa, the Rebbein teacher coming. Being at WITS has enabled me to become aware of the importance of Ahavas Torah and its dependency on passing Torah to the next generation. I feel privileged to represent my class. I want to thank all the individuals who played a strong role in my education. To my parents, all education starts at home. You've taught me all important things I need to know. You showed Ahavas Torah by sending me away to yeshiva. You showed the ultimate in Ahavas Torah, wanting your children and future generations to have Torah. You've always been there for me. Whether it's to give advice, help me, teach me, care for me. Thank you. To my Rebbein, you have helped make my years at WITS a success. You taught me many valuable lessons in Torah, Musar, and life in general. You showed me the importance of having a Masorah, and you showed true Torah by passing on Torah. To my general studies teachers, thank you for your hard work and devotion. And finally, to my class, you've had a great 3 years together, and I want to thank you for making Tesla years the best of my life. I have made many friendships and hope that even though we're separated, they will still last.
Learn a concept that is very dear to us in the yeshiva, and that is Derech Eretz Kadma LaTorah. While nothing can supersede nor transcend the totality of Limud HaTorah, there is a prerequisite upon which the real Kenyan acquisition of Torah is built, and that is Derech Eretz. That is the ability of an individual to build within his personality refinement, edelkeit, chesed, all of the loftiest midos tovos which are revealed to us in the Torah. And in order for an individual to really be Koneh Torah, to acquire Torah at its highest level, it must be complemented with midos tovos and derech eretz. As one ascends the ladder of a ben Torah, the derech eretz and the midos must fuel the learning, just as the learning must fuel the derech eretz. As you can see from our program this afternoon, we have Kol valedictorians, 2 individuals that were so close in the running for the highest achievement within the class. It was only right and appropriate to deem them as Kol valedictorians. Zev Goldman, last year, received the Weinstein Achievement Award, which is given to one individual within the yeshiva, who projects the highest ideals of Torah and Musar. On one hand, is an individual who strives to learn, and yet also is one who reaches out to everyone. We presented the award to Zev last year. We pointed out that while Zev is found in the base medrash all the time, and it would seem that there's no time left to do anything else, he is also one who was involved in the Milwaukee Jewish home, involved with Russians, being Makar of them, involved with other chasadim. Our co-valedictorian epitomizes the ideal of Torah Musar and Derech Eretz Kadma LaTorah. I want to wish a special mazel tov to Mr. and Mrs. Goldman, and at this time call upon our valedictorian to receive his award and make the valedictorian address, Zev Goldman.
Graduation is a joyous occasion for the graduates and their families. It is the conclusion of our high school career where time should be utilized to reflect upon the memories of our years at WITS and the progress that we have made. We have permission to feel pride in our accomplishments and in our development in Torah and Musar, but we do not have the privilege to feel satisfied with that development. The Medrash Rabbah on Parshas Natztanim expounds upon the pasuk found in Koheles, Parak, which says, Oev Kesef, lo yishava Kesef. One who loves silver will never be satiated with the amount he has. In other words, this desire is so powerful that no matter how much one has, there is always a longing for more. The Medrash asks, what is the purpose for Koheles singling out this desire for silver if our other unworthy urges demand the same amount of limitless attention? The Medrash points out that silver is an allusion specifically to Torah and mitzvahs, as seen by the offerings donated to the Mishkan on behalf of the princes that represented the 12 tribes. Torah mentions that each of the princes' offerings consisted of silver. The Marzu explains the reason for the usage of the silver is to identify the princes as tzaddikim. Thus, Koheles was conveying the thought that the passion for Torah's knowledge should be equivalent to the desire for worldly enjoyments. The person who is really in love with the Torah feels a perpetual need to learn Torah and fulfill its commandments. We utilize every moment to ascertain Torah's ideals and will not fail to practice at every occasion that which she has learned. Even with all this dedication, a true Torah, a lover of Torah, will sense that he has not achieved and will strive to do more. The Medrash is giving us an insight about what genuine avos Torah, love for Torah, is all about. A person can dedicate all the hours he is awake to study the precious Torah, but if he develops a frame of mind of being satisfied with his knowledge in Torah, then he is not a true Ohev Torah. Our Chachamim tell us in Pirkei Avos, chapters of our fathers, that a wealthy person is someone who is hasameach b'chalko, one who is happy with his lot. This is not so in reference to the learning of the Torah and the performance of mitzvahs. An illustration can be seen from Moshe Rabbeinu and David HaMelech of what viewing oneself as desolate in the areas of Torah and mitzvahs really means. Moshe knew he was not destined to enter the land of Israel, yet he initiated the establishment of the Arei Mikot, the cities of refuge, which was a commandment to the Jewish people only upon inheriting the land of Israel. David HaMelech was informed that he was not the one chosen to build the Beis HaMikdash, yet he prearranged the items to be used for the temple's construction. We see in both instances how two people who were constantly involved in fulfilling Hashem's will did their utmost to assist in their mitzvah's completion, even though they were prevented from seeing their efforts come to fruition. The lesson from the Medrash in these two stories is most applicable to the situation my classmates and I confront. We have toiled with persevering diligence throughout these 4 years, learning from our Rebbeim how to read and analyze a piece of Gemara with their commentaries, and how to live a Torah lifestyle from a halachic and Musar vantage. Each one of us is proud of our successes and maturation. However, we must not deceive ourselves into becoming content with the achievements we have reached as we open a new chapter into our lives. To do so would consequently jeopardize our service to Hashem. It's essential that we continually improve in our Torah learning and always have a drive to protect our midos. By doing so, we will have demonstrated our allegiance to Hashem and His Torah. On this note, I would like to extend my appreciation to all of my Rebbeim for educating me in the Torah's light and devoting their time and energy in order that I would have an opportunity to become a Ben Torah. I pray that my classmates and I will exemplify our Rebbeim's never-ceasing dedication to Torah and mitzvahs. To my parents, who ensure that all 6 of their children receive a proper Jewish education, both in the home and yeshivas. I cannot express the debt I owe to you for the attention invested in me so that I too could be a participant in Torah Judaism. I thank you for the love, care, and understanding that you have shown to me for the previous 18 years, and for inspiring me to attain my goals. To my secular studies teachers, who have given their time and patience to teach us, I applaud you for your excellence and commitment. And last, but not least, the class and Chaverim at WITS, who offered their warmth, friendship, especially in trying times. They made my high school career a most enjoyable one. I thank you all.
A number of years ago at our annual banquet, we honored George and Shirley Weinstein. And at that time, they wanted to create an award which would recognize within the students what the yeshiva stood for. And I have noted in the introduction of Zev exactly what the award is. It is a award to recognize achievement in the academic sphere for a young man who is dedicated to his learning, who has achieved in his learning, is a role model in learning, as well as to an individual at the same time has that breadth of understanding of the Torah's commands that must go hand in hand with a commitment to others through involvement in community work, tzorchei tzibur, chesed, in reaching out to chaverim and other individuals wherever they may be. And sitting to decide how to award this particular achievement award, we wound up choosing two individuals because they really both, again, modeled exactly what this award is attempting to distinguish. They are two people who are very, very dedicated to their learning. One, an individual in the Beis Medrash, who has already learned a number of years in the Beis Medrash, and one, an underclassman. Of particular note, these are two individuals who, week in, week out, without any ulterior motives, which all the Talmidim will understand, visit the home on a weekly basis in order to help and visit the individuals who are residents at this Milwaukee Jewish home. In addition, anyone who is in the Beis Medrash, in the dining room, in the halls of the yeshiva, will see these two individuals constantly involved with their chaverim, learning with them, extra sidurim, working with them, lending a hand, being mechazek them, strengthening them at any point in which someone needs an extra boost. It is extremely beautiful to see young men at this age be so selfless as to spend the very few moments they have free worrying about the needs of other individuals. And it's extremely special that we are able to recognize this, both because they deserve recognition as well as in order to set up appropriate goals for the entire student body. Our goal would be that everyone would be worthy of such an award, where they would be so dedicated to learning and to their chaverim that all of their days would be spent in these worthy endeavors. It is my distinct pleasure at this time to call upon Daniel Meister and David Lee. The only problem we have in presenting awards, especially in the yeshiva, is that for all intents and purposes, every single graduate deserves special recognition. As all the parents know, and I'm sure by now, our Talmidim know, it's a very, very intense, challenging, difficult environment to put 13 to 17-year-olds. You're studying and learning day and night, literally. There's a tremendous amount of pressure to do well, your family, your friends, and the yeshiva. And as such, every person who successfully completes the yeshiva really deserves special recognition. Baruch Hashem, this is our goal with this next part of the program. This is a matter of introduction. I would like to say that after a while, when one is in a particular position, one thinks they've seen everything. this particular year I have been taught a new lesson. And that is a lesson in achrayus. What it means to carry an achrayus, a responsibility for Klal Yisrael. This year, deservedly, Rabbi Waxman was on a sabbatical. And we thought that we would not have to deal with his constant messages day in and day out. Fortunately, we were wrong. Because even though Rabbi Waxman was thousands of miles away, dedicating himself to Sidorim of learning in Kollel Yerushalayim, Israeli Kollel, no one there knew who he was, what his position was in America, except the Kollel learned in Sidorim. Nevertheless, even though this is supposed to be a sabbatical where we get away from everything, the yeshiva was constantly on his mind. And of course, by that I don't only mean the learning and the haslach of the students, but I mean the material well-being of the yeshiva. For an individual to be thousands of miles away and still feel that sense of concern to make sure everything is going well, taught all of us in the yeshiva what a Baal Achrayus is. It's a distinct pleasure at this time to introduce Rabbi Maxson.
Thank you, Rabbi Shepard. I'm going to do Billy with you. I kept my laptop at home with walking here. And I'll take it to Israel. Before I begin, I'd like to especially take note of a very warm friend and one of the forces that is responsible for the time that Rabbi Harris and I and Rabbi Shepard were thinking, coming from Milwaukee, and that is Lord Yasser Feldman, who has graciously joined us at graduation. We welcome you and thank you for joining us at graduation. Once again, it's my privilege, on behalf of all my colleagues, to present to each of you, special graduates, a small gift in honor of this auspicious occasion. But first, let me share just a brief thought from this week's Common Center. I'm going to read Parshas Beha'aloscha, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu commands Moshe Rabbeinu and says, "Daber el ha'aron, yomarta elav Beha'aloscha esanelo, el mul pnei ha'menorah, v'yu yeshuas ha'menorah." Moshe Rabbeinu is told to command Aaron HaKohen to kindle the menorah, which will stand in the Mishkan and then in the Beis HaMikdash. And Chazal notes, and then Yisrael brings down the concern. HaKadosh Baruch Hu noted that all the Shvatim, all the Messiahs, were makriv karbonos, but Aaron apparently was left out. And Hashem noticed the sign, perhaps, on the brow of Aaron HaKohen. The crest, oily, that's what Aaron expressed. Amalo HaKadosh Baruch Hu says in Medrash Rabbah, "Al tisyorei, don't be afraid. L'gedula rizu atom." You are going to have a greater task. And what is that? As I'll say, if you look at the karbonos, Kozman shebeis hamikdash karam, only when the Beis Hamikdash is in its state, came nohagim. Do the shiftei kah serve? After the Beis Hamikdash will be destroyed, their job has been terminated. About Haneros V'Holah, as it says, El Mul Pnei HaMenorah V'Yiru Yeshuas. And the Ramban asks a very obvious question, a perplexing one. How is that? Is
Is it not true that after the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, the Neros also ceased to be lit? And he gives us parents. But I'd like to share with you a profound approach presented by Rav Yosef Zlugel Salanter to Eretz Yosef. And he says that as it refers to the Neros even after the Beis Hamikdash will be destroyed. Because Chazal are not referring to the Hadlokas HaNeros themselves necessarily, but rather they refer to the Shefa, the impact that the lighting of the Neros carried with it throughout the generations, the continuity of what it stood for. And as the Emek Dover, the Nesiv, elaborates and he says, the Pilpula Shel Torah, which is generated with the lighting of the Neros Iner Mitzvah V'Torah Or, those flames continue on, and they have an impact throughout the generations. This are when you are in charge, and your children. And when you model it with Kedusha and power, Shem and Zayis up, you carry that light of Kiyum HaTorah for those who are Osek in Torah, for those who will continue with the Hasmada, the Limun HaTorah and Kiyum HaTorah. Chaverim, as you so brilliantly expressed in front of you at the Simcha this afternoon, have shown us that you have begun this lifelong task of laboring in Torah. This foundation has been laid and implanted within each of you. The process is in motion. It is now our wish and prayer, on behalf of all of us, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will grant each of you the koach, the foresight, the strength to be mamsheh and to build onto this beautiful yesod, and to be matzliach in the coming years of the Yisra HaTorah, so that you can continue to be a source of ma'at, yourself, to your family, to your parents, and to all the lives. Mazel tov. I'm here to tell you, I promised your brother to graduate from the yeshiva. Over these past 4 years, we have watched you develop and mature in Torah, Hashkalah, Torah, and Yerushalayim. You have made great progress in your learning, and you have achieved an admirable academic record. We wish you Hatzlacha next year in the WITS Graduation. Mendel, the son of my dear friend, longtime Rabbi of Israel, since arriving Mendel as a young 13-year-old, you have used your great natural ability to make remarkable strides in your learning. A true product of your illustrious home, you have shown yourself to be a true Ben Torah, dedicated to growth in Midos and Yerushalayim. We wish you Hatzlacha in the WITS Graduation. Yaakov from Atlanta has been with us for all 4 years of high school. Polite, well-liked, and lovable. Above all, Yaakov has shown himself to be a real mensch. He has distinguished himself with his achievements in the Limudei Kodesh, learning in the Beis Medrash program the entire day. The task of the Yeshiva Gabbai, as you all probably know, is not an easy one. But Yaakov has demonstrated to us through his sensitivity and concern for others that he is a true Baal HaChrayus. We wish you Hatzlacha to Bracha next year in our Beis Medrash. Todd comes from Kansas City, the true Baal Midos, thoughtful and polite. Todd has earned the admiration of his friends and peers. He has made great progress in his Torah and secular learning by utilizing his conscientiousness, his seriousness, and diligence. We wish you much hatzlacha in Yeshivat Kol Yerushalayim in Israel. Lisa joined us in Monsey in his junior year and immediately distinguished himself as a young man of outstanding intellectual ability. It has been a pleasure to watch him channel his rare talents in the direction of Torah learning and blossom into a red Torah. It is also noteworthy to mention his accomplishments in the secular department as he earned the distinction of being selected as a National Merit Scholarship finalist. We wish you hatzlacha in WITS Graduation next year and may continue to bring much nachas to your family. Arya from Chicago has been at WITS since his sophomore year. Over the last few years, we have watched Arya grow and learn and absorb and internalize the stuff of our Torah. Arya's easygoing nature, sharp wit, and creativity have earned him a great measure of popularity with both students and faculty alike. We wish you hatzlacha next year in Yeshivat Slave Adon Yerushalayim. Eddie Glazer from Baltimore, our distinguished co-valedictorian, than whom you have already heard much. So in my own personal wish of the mazel tov and you and your family. Hatzlacha next year, Abby. Pinchas Goldfinger from Baltimore has been with us since his sophomore year. While outwardly reserved, perhaps Pinchas has a special charm and wit that has endeared him to his classmates. Serious and bright, he has achieved great success in his studies. In all his attributes, Pinchas demonstrates the qualities of a sincere and Torah. Hatzlacha u'bracha in this ministry. David has joined us in his sophomore year from Toronto. David has excelled in his studies, both in Limmudei Kodesh and Limmudei Torah. His rare blend of intellect and conscientiousness on the one hand, and friendliness and gentleness on the other, have brought him scholastic success and a special dish of friendship with Eric. We wish you much hatzlacha in Yeshivat Yerushalayim. Gives me special pleasure that the son of a very close friend, co-founder of the Yeshiva, Moses O'Harris, graduating from WITS. All who know you, Baruch, are aware of the intelligence and the great talents that Hashem has endowed you with. It is our bracha that you utilize your great potential and follow in the footsteps of your founding family of Mechanikim and Maladim. We wish you much hatzlacha and bracha in the year of your That's golden. Oh, so beautiful today. Zeb from Kansas City, our other co-valedictorian, winner of last year's Weinstein Achievement Award. My special wishes of mazel tov to you and your family. We wish you much hatzlacha and WITS-based measures next year. Moshe Katz from Chicago, with his jovial and good-natured personality, has added a unique dimension to the chemistry history class. Over the past 4 years, Moshe has expressed his movement and should be proud of the manner in which he demonstrated patience and perseverance in his studies. For this, you deserve a very special recognition, and we are truly pleased that you'll be continuing to build upon this foundation and achieve us for development of our own. Our stuff from Memphis, our salutatory on whom you have already heard much, we wish special mazel tov and tzlacha in this space management. Ben Prero from Chicago, the third Prero brother who graduated from WITS. Serious, conscientious, and hardworking. Ben has excelled in his studies, both Limmudei Kodesh and Limmudei Torah. He has demonstrated great organizational skills and proven to be a highly responsible young man in the many hours that he spent at the Yeshiva State Library. Much hatzlacha in Yeshiva Chofetz Chaim Yerushalayim next year, and mazel tov to the family. David Buchanan from Cleveland has been with us all 4 years of high school. When speaking to David, one can easily recognize his intelligence and maturity. These characteristics have helped him progress and develop into a Ben Torah and Baal Hashkafa with sincere and sophisticated aspirations. We wish you and your family much hatzlacha on your Aliyah to Eretz Yisrael, where you will be learning these Yeshivas later on. Rami, watching you grow, always developed into a Ben Torah has given your mother and myself great knowledge. We're so pleased that you were able to join us in Eretz Yisrael for the first half of this year, as you applied your great co-host to learning Torah. Rami, as we sat and we learned together the shul, I felt great pride and joy to observe the great strides that you have made in learning. Mom and family, sorry they couldn't be here today, but you have good representation because your Bubby and Zadie from Borough Park are here. Knowledge, presence. And we wish you, and we hope that you will bring much nachas to the Torah Mishpacha and hatzlacha and good faith measure next year. Before we come to that important part of the program, conferring of diplomas, I'm going to take a couple moments out to make some remarks that need to be made every day. Unfortunately, in the hustle and bustle of life are not made. First, I would like to say that this is usually a very difficult day for us. Very happy day, difficult day. We spent many years with these young men. It's difficult to see them. As you know from the book and the remarks made today, that a majority of the boys are staying with space management. That in and of itself is a rather remarkable feat for two reasons. And it really can be understood on two different levels. One is that those young men that are staying in the base medrash here in WITS are giving up a very attractive year in Eretz Yisrael, which in certain respects cannot be duplicated. For any of us that have learned in Eretz Yisrael, we know
very, very special treat to be able to learn this. So on one hand, the fact that some young men have chosen to stay here is really a symbol of their dedication to learning and to the appreciation of their individual decisions as to what is in their best interests in terms of their learning for next year. On the second level, it very much demonstrates the attractiveness and excellence of our own base measures, which, since there's no graduation from base measures, there's never really an opportunity to focus in on the excellence that has been developed in the yeshiva. We know, those of us in the yeshiva, that there are individuals who come from literally all four corners of the states to participate in Rabbi Rausch's shir, which is preparatory to Rosh Hashiva shir in fourth class. And most of the individuals who have chosen to stay on have done so because they know the reputation of Rabbi Zakkai's first shir in the base medrash, which objectively, unbiasedly, we can say is one of the most excellent shirim in the country, the first entering the base medrash. Just recently, we had an individual who was visiting the yeshiva from another yeshiva who had gone to a number of yeshivas to visit. And one evening, he got stuck in the base medrash, discussing a sugya that he was learning in the yeshiva he's in, which has no relevance at all to anything we're learning, but who spent hours discussing the sugya with Rabbi Renner. And as this person left, he told me it was an individual of this caliber, was a Sholem nation, who was around to discuss things with the Talmidim and learning. This would be a very major reason for him wanting to come to the yeshiva. So for those parents whose graduates have chosen to continue in the yeshiva, you can rest assured that obviously taking into account your son's individual interests, they are in good hands and you can expect the highest levels of achievement from them in future years. What I meant in my introduction is that these are things that should be done every day, and they're not, and that is expressions of our Torah. The operation of the yeshiva is so multifaceted that it literally demands so many people's hours. And oftentimes individuals who keep the yeshiva together do not often get the recognition that they so deservedly should have. In particular, it's very well known that Rabbi Rausch, Rabbi Wax, and myself have myriad of duties outside the yeshiva, which does not allow us to be involved either in the academics nor in the hour-to-hour, minute-to-minute operation of the yeshiva that we wish we could. And that, in essence, the Rebbeim who are on the faculty of the yeshiva are the ones that really are the stabilizing force within the yeshiva and the ones that hold the yeshiva together. And we owe, on behalf of the yeshiva as well as all the Talmidim and the families, an unbelievable amount of hakaras hatov, gratitude to the Rebbeim of the yeshiva for the unbelievable amount of time, effort, and stability that they bring to the yeshiva. At this time, we thank each and every one of you.
It's very difficult for me to show you with any new insight. I think the words of the valedictorians and the rabbis have a common basis of insight and knowledge that I really would not be able to do justice to. But I do want to share with you the opportunity of what sometimes graduation means, and that is to kind of regather one's thoughts and kind of make summaries as to what has happened. This is an appropriate year to do so, and being one of mathematics, I can kind of imagine seeing the summary in a sequence of three simple numbers, 13, 14, and 15. 15, of course, this is the 15th year that WITS has been functioning as a school. And I'd like to give it my warmest and most sincere mazel tov to WITS for its 15th year. Also, in that category of 15 years, there's really three things that come to mind for me. The first, of course, is the incredible effort of the founding Museum and the efforts that they've put forth. Second is the continuing efforts of all the Rebbeim to strive to do what is best for every individual student at the school. And probably third, and certainly not least, and perhaps even most important, are the families, in particular the founding families that believed enough in the Rebbeim and the concept of the school to send their sons and have faith that the Rebbeim would do what was best for them. It's a remarkable achievement, and I think it's a great tribute to the Jewish culture. I don't think there would be too many other cultures that would put such trust in such a tradition as this. It is a remarkable achievement. The number 14 really ties into this too, because that's about how many hours each student at WITS puts in each day. And it's because of what the parents and the Rebbeim believe that they are able to pursue everything that would be considered good for an individual, morally, ethically, and academically. It's a major accomplishment. And of course, the number 13, being the 13th graduating class, it's a wonderful opportunity to be back. And again, a mazel tov for them as well. And I look forward to the opportunity to shake their hands and up with the moments. So for me, it's just a wonderful.
Request that after the diplomas are given, the graduates have an opportunity to participate in the recessional, which will allow them to get to the bathroom where the reception is held. And then afterwards, everyone is, of course, invited to participate in the reception. For the past 15 years, we've had the privilege and the opportunity of having two very special friends in the community, Dr. and Mrs. Cohn. And for all those years, for the past 13, Mrs. Cohn has graced us with her playing at the graduation, and we want to thank her again for being with us. Mira Bramchick. Mendel Becker. Jakob Cohn. Pat Cohn. Alicia Feinberg. Ariane
hands. Ari Cup. Ben Ferrero. David Sukanich. Drumming master.
Say hi, Moshe.
Hello, hello, hello. Mazel tov.
Who needs
Vinny, what are you doing here?
Oh, not leg. There. Hello, Susan.
Open it down. Oh.
Get Whammo.
Oh, try that.
Okay.
See you later.
Vinny. Limos. Huh? Limos. Well, can we? Limo.
All right, so give us a second. Put it in your mouth.
Smile for you. That a smile for you. Come on.
We gotta just see if we gotta get
I love it.
I've had enough practice. School was only a week ago. You can't even get it. Todd, you're going to burn yourself, sweetheart. Todd, we have not gotten the picture. Get them all in.
Bus is leaving.
Amir, how are you? Over
Amir! Come on.
Mom's